Um, Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. As you can see from the thumbnail, this is quite a controversial topic, and the past few weeks I think there have been a rise of news regarding this whole issue, like sexual harassment, and how some women have experienced what they've experienced. And I've also followed Dairy Community, which is Instagram page that has been closed down, but women share their personal experiences about sex and sex related, guys and girls both actually. So I've read a couple of posts, and it kind of struck me as shocking. Start talking about my own personal experiences with sexual harassment. So before we begin, this is the definition of sexual harassment. Like, with regards to everything, because of my reputation on Real Talk, I've always been very open about my sexual experiences and my own behavior and what constitutes good and bad sexual behavior on that show. And I guess learning from all these accounts and stories that Singaporean women have shared, regardless of anonymity or not, it is still a very moving experience to read what these women have gone through. So today, in light of everything and what has everyone posted, I would like to share about my own experiences with sexual assault, in hopes that by giving a face to the story, it can inspire women to not feel victimized, or maybe come forward, but this is all your own personal choice. Or maybe try sharing that load, responsibility with someone close to you. If not, you can share it with organizations that I have listed here. You can write me an email, we can always discuss, and I'll listen to you if you don't have any support system that will. Okay, so I'm gonna go into my experiences. Okay, so I actually got molested when I was like 13. So I was in the MRT, so I was on the way out, and I was just standing with my friend, and I was really shocked when it happened. So basically I was leaning, my back was not against the door, so it was like faced out, so someone could brush past me. So what happened was someone stuck his hand down my ass. So okay, so it's my ass, right? So it's my ass crack, and then he like put his hand and then he rubbed it up, and then as he left the doors of the train closed, so I couldn't do anything about it. I guess when I was 13, I was just in a state of shock when it happened, and I didn't really tell a lot of people because I don't know. I think I felt at 13 very confused, and I didn't really know what sexuality meant and what consent meant, because I was 13 and I haven't had sex before. So that was one of my experiences with molest. I don't think I told my mom as well. So I just felt like it wasn't necessary. Like, I much rather keep the incident to myself. And yeah, and I think some girls feel that way, and if you do, I empathize, because personally what I felt was that I would never see that man again, because he walked out of the train, right? So I couldn't see his face. So there was no point pursuing it, because he might not get persecuted based on the situation and everything. So yeah, that was what I thought about it. So actually I do have more awareness, and with that knowledge in mind, I think it is easier for me to navigate the situation and the complexity of this issue. Okay, second experience. Firstly, I was shocked. I was very, very scared because I didn't know what would happen. I was alone. It was in broad daylight, so it was around like 3 p.m. in the afternoon. But there was nobody around me that could help me. So I just stood there in shock. So I didn't respond. I didn't move. I just stood there rooted. And he proceeded to ask me very weird and very uncomfortable questions like, it's okay, you don't have to do it in your uniform. I was like, huh? And he was like, I don't know, it was like something very inappropriate and something you shouldn't be asking a girl. And furthermore, I was definitely underage because I was in my school uniform. So yeah, so when he just stared at me blankly for like that split second, I just jolted up to my house. And then like I went into my house and I told my mom what happened. And yeah, and I guess she told me that yeah, it has happened to her before, like when she was younger, and how like if you feel afraid, like I'll be here for you, blah blah blah. Like she offered feelings of support and solace basically. But I guess those two experiences were easier for me to overcome because it was a very short lapse in my life. Like those two incidents took up only like 5 minutes of my life, so it was easier for me to block out. But I guess the next story that I'm about to tell you is a bit more serious, because it happened when I first moved to London. So it was my first week in a new city. I was very vulnerable. Like it just had the weight of like anxiety, I suppose, because like moving to a new place is normal to feel these things. So due to jet lag, my sleep schedule was a bit fucked. So I got up early that day. It was a Sunday morning. I was walking to Old Street station. So Old Street is located in Shoreditch, which is business slash party area. So the area has a lot of clubs and bars that people frequent at night. So thinking, because I'm from Singapore, by 10 a.m. on a Sunday, even if it's in Clarke Quay or River Valley, typical Holland V, places where you entertain and drink with your friends, by 10 a.m. there are some like morning crowds walking around, blah blah blah. So I thought it would be the same for Old Street, Shoreditch, because it's pretty cosmopolitan area. But actually I was wrong. So there wasn't anybody there, and I got lost because one of the underpasses were under renovation. So I actually couldn't take the underpass, and yeah, it was just very confusing because there was a lot of construction happening at that time. So I walked into a salad shop that was open, and I asked this lady that was working at the counter directions to the station. And I don't know why, but it was a mistake on my part. I shouldn't have told her where I lived, because she asked me so where was I heading to, and then I said I was going to Camberwell, which is where I live in London. And then this man overheard me, and then he said, oh, I'm going there too. Like, he was super friendly, seemed like a nice guy, overly friendly for sure. But I didn't take anything by it. I was just like, okay, yeah, sure, like, yeah. Then he suggested to go to the place, go to Camberwell with him, because we were on the way back together on the same. Then I didn't respond. My response was ignore. So I just ignored him, and then I walked out of the shop. But I think my silence to him meant consent. So he actually started following me, and I didn't have my glasses at the time, and I ran out of contact, so I was like partially blind while this was all happening. And there was like an obvious stench of alcohol on his breath. Like, I could smell whiskey. He didn't seem drunk, or he didn't seem like high on drugs, but he was extremely creepy and pervy. And when it happened, yeah, I guess like I wanted to dart, like I wanted to go another way, but I couldn't, because he looked like the aggressive type. I just knew that he was an aggressive person. You can sense these things, and I didn't want to offend him or piss him off, because I felt like if I did, he might go physical on me. So as we were walking to Old Street, we were at the tube station already. He kept like trying to touch me, like just trying to make moves, but like hyper aggressively. And he was obviously telling me a lot of lies. Like he was saying like how he was a professor in my university, blah blah blah, and I was like, oh okay. Like I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then he like tried to touch my shoulder and then like maybe my hips, and I was just like, oh, this is really uncomfortable. So once we were at the tube station, he actually brought me to the wrong track. So at Old Street there is like two types of trains. So there is the subway and then there is the overground. So the overground is like a more big track or whatever, but it's closed. I don't know, but it wasn't operating. But I don't know how we got there, but I was just like, oh my god, like this is really fucking scary. So I was walking with him, and the station was also quiet. The station had no signal, so I couldn't call or text anyone. And when it happened, like I knew he was bringing me to the wrong place, because we were walking in circles, and he was saying that I was really cute because like I was so ignorant and I didn't know where I was going, blah blah blah. And then I was just like, oh my god. I was just like, oh my god. Yeah, I was like fuck, like there's nobody around me. I don't know how I'm gonna navigate like out of this. I don't really want to talk to this guy, but if I don't talk to him, like what is gonna happen to me? So I just barely said anything, and then I just prayed that we're headed to the right direction. So eventually I think we did. Like yeah, I ended up at the train, and then when we boarded the train, he asked me to sit next to him, and I was like, no, I don't know if this really constitutes assault beside the physical touching, but I felt extremely uncomfortable, and I felt like he was in a position to abuse that power over me. But in that sense, because he was way more aggressive than me, and I had no bearings of where I was, so I was like, yeah, it's like ugh. Yeah, so what happened after that? Okay, so we got onto the train, and then there were two girls seated next to him, and he started not molesting them, but like he was like trying to like touch them as well. So like I'm the guy, and then he was like touching her thigh and then like smothering her, but she was with her friend, and they were not having it. They were just like, oh fuck, like leave us alone, I'm fucking hungover. They were hungover, you could tell. And there were like another family on the train as well, and I don't know why, but I really wanted to ask them for help, but I didn't. Like I couldn't like speak up. I don't know why, because maybe because I just moved, and I guess like being from Singapore, like we don't talk to strangers, ironically, because this situation involves a stranger. But yeah, I just felt extremely uncomfortable, and everybody started leaving at Borough Station, which is Borough Market. So I was like, okay, this is my cue to leave. If I don't leave now, I'm going to be stuck on this train with nobody, and there's just this guy, like I don't know what the fuck's going to happen. So I left the station, and then he followed me, and then he looked really confused. He was like, oh, why you leave the station? Then I was just like, oh, I need to buy bread for my mother, like I need to go. And then he was like, oh, I guess. Then he suddenly like, I think that triggered him, so I was like, oh, I need to go. And he got super triggered. So after that, he was like, oh, I get this is my cue to fuck off. And I was like, I was just a loss for words. I was like, oh my god. And then he eventually walked away. He looked really pissed. So as I was going up the escalator, he was on the escalator furthest away from me, but as I was going up, he kept looking at me like with very intense eyes. Like he did not break the eye contact, so he just kept looking at me, and he kept staring. And I thought he was gonna follow me, but as we exited Borough, there were a lot of people. Thankfully, like thank you Jesus, whatever that is up there. So there were a lot of people, and I saw him walk to the place where you tap out, and then I just darted to the other side, and I started crying. I was like, where's the exit? I need to exit. I need to call someone. So eventually I left, and I started crying, and I called like someone I knew, and I told them what happened, and I took a taxi back. But yeah, I guess me telling you all this, I think in all three situations, I felt extremely vulnerable. Two of them I was underage. The third incident, I was of age, but I was dressed like a normal person, a normal girl. Anyway, assault shouldn't happen regardless of what you wear. But if you're gonna, and I guess I just wanna like share this perspective with you guys, or whatever that I've experienced, to allow victims that who actually might face something way worse, more consistent, and that like it's okay. Your situation is not okay, but it's okay to, because I'm here to talk to the girls that have experienced that situation or something similar or something worse, that there are options for you to navigate through this situation. And you may feel like you have no agency to overcome that pain of harassment, or overcome what you have experienced because you don't really have a support system. I'm sending an open invitation to you to maybe, like, if you feel comfortable, email me, talk to me about it, or speak to someone from an organization. So this is non-sponsored. I just did a video Google. Okay, so you can email aware.org.sg. I'll leave the email here. You can also call them, and there's also the Protection from Harassment Act, which makes stalking and sexual harassment online or offline an explicit offense, and gives victims more options for criminal and civil remedies. So this has been alteration in the court of law, which I'm not super well versed in, but if you decide to pursue the person that has assaulted you, there is some legal navigations that you can go through. And if you don't feel comfortable talking to me or talking to your friends and family, maybe because they have shamed you for what has happened, which I don't agree. You shouldn't be shamed because it's not your fault. People that are open to talking to you. Okay, so I was editing the video, and I was like researching about the befriender service, which I was speaking about, but it actually got discontinued by Aware. Okay, so on Aware, they have given links to the Community Justice Center, but the link doesn't work. But there are also hotlines that you can call, which is like the Helpline, the Sexual Assault Care Center, and General Enquiries, which I'll list here. On Aware, they have listed counseling, which I'll put a link, and the hotline as well, but it will take about 3 working days to process an appointment. Yeah, so I want to do this and share because I know there are women out there, especially in Singapore, where we might feel that it's not okay to talk about these kind of situations because it's not polite or it's just uncomfortable. But I want to talk about it because I want to share and hopefully encourage women to feel better about themselves despite what has happened, and maybe feel that there is a community around you that is online that will support your decision regardless of what you've made. If you decide to confront them or not confront them, or navigate your life as nothing much has happened, like, there is solidarity through this video, because we shouldn't feel ashamed for something that we had no control in and control of. And I guess thanks for watching, and thanks for listening. Consent.